You're listening to the Packernet Podcast Network.
With threats to our nation waiting around every corner, adaptability is more important than ever. When conditions change without notice, quick strategic thinking is crucial. And with obstacles consistently impending, determination is essential in overcoming them. It's this willingness, decisiveness, and resilience that sets Marines apart. With our fighting spirit, we don't just fight battles, we win them. Marines are the constant our nation counts on to fight the unknown. And through adaptable problem solving, we do just that. Learn more at marines.com.
I'm Alex Rodriguez.
And I'm Jason Kelly.
From Bloomberg, this is The Deal. Each week, you'll hear us in conversation with business icons.
This show will explore deal-making across sports, media, and entertainment.
That is a harsh lesson in business.
Sports is not as simple as bringing a bunch of big names together.
I didn't want to do another stomp you out speech.
It opened up so many more doors.
The show is called The Deal.
Listen to The Deal.
Listen to The Deal on Spotify.
The power sweep actually is the lead play in our offense. We ask our YN or a tight end to open up somewhere between 6 feet and 9 feet. Get an isolation with the linebacker. You tell the tackle to take the defensive end if he's over him. If he's not, to drive down on the first man to his inside. If the YN has the linebacker taken out, he cuts inside. If the YN has the linebacker in, he comes all the way around. If you look at this play, what we're trying to get is a seal here and a seal here, and try to run this play in the alley.
Hey, what's up, gang? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Email us PackersTotalAccess@gmail.com. Text us 865-658-5824. Join alongside Jacob up in Wisconsin, the great state of Wisconsin. Jacob, how are we doing today, buddy?
Oh, I'm doing well. Had the day off. It's a little cloudy here where I'm at. All day it's been kind of a day, but I'm doing all right. I'm doing better than you are, it sounds like.
Yeah, we're sitting at about 80 degrees today. I've been looking forward to this weather all week. I'm like, man, we're going to get the pool open. We're going to have a good day. Got out on the property, did a little weed eating. Told Jacob, man, got about halfway through the property and felt like I was going to pass out. So something grabbed a hold of me. I don't know if it's just allergies, the flu, or what, but hopefully I don't completely botch this show. We'll kind of limp through, see what we can do. So I apologize for the voice. I apologize I'll try to keep the mic muted when I'm sniffling, hacking, and coughing. Just please understand I'm not overhitting the pipe, okay? It's just, just the weather, the allergies, I'm assuming. But I got to say, man, I complimented Jacob's hat offline here. That old styles hat, pretty sweet. Tell him about it. Where'd you get that from, Jacob?
This is from 1993 in Menominee, Wisconsin. It's my grandfather's hat. I found it in his one of his closets, and I was like, I'm going to take that. And he's like, okay.
if that hat could talk, bro. You know, love it. I know, Jacob, we kind of talked earlier about contract stuff. We'll try to button up that conversation. This is the time to do it, and we kind of ran out of time earlier today. I wanted to get to the point where it's like, let's look at these 2025 free agents and think, okay, who is Goody very, very aggressively trying to lock up, right? And more so from our perspective as fans, who would we like to see the Packers re-sign, you know, at the right price, of course. So we can kind of dive into that a touch as well. But good news on the horizon, really, man. It's pretty cool. Matt Schneiden tweeted this out. Packers begin full team OTAs tomorrow. Practice viewing, locker room, and LaFleur on Tuesday. So this is going to feel like a little mini training camp here with the OTAs. This is what they always referred to as mini camp. Kind of cool, Jacob. I'm really excited about seeing the majority, a large majority of the guys get out there. And I know your mind operates the same way as mine does. This OTA, when the OTAs hit, first thing I'm looking at is, all right, who didn't show up? Is that how you look at it too, Jacob?
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to be negative, but that is something that pops in your head. I mean, we've talked about years past. We won't bring up names, but we'll say there was maybe some certain superstars and that kind of stuff that just didn't feel like it was necessary, or maybe that they were a little bit above it or whatever the case was. It's nice to see that from the initial rookie mini camp, it sounded like, even with Jair showing up for whatever the non-voluntary, whatever it was, obviously he had some incentive there, monetary incentive, I'm sure, but it is good. And I think I've talked about it. Like, it's just a chance for these guys to bond together. And you really can't put a price on that. I really don't think you can. I think the main season, the on season is won in the off season, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, definitely, man. I think it is important. And the biggest thing too, and you correct me if you see it, differently, but it kind of feels like the majority of what's going on with these OTAs are the second and third installs, right? They're trying to get the playbook installed. When they break and they give everybody a little bit of time away, and then they come back for the next phase, you're expected to have learned another section of the playbook, right? Of the install, so you can begin to just put a little more on their plate, if you will. So that's kind of how I see the OTAs too. And it's cool to hear some of the feedback that you'll get from the media being there. Now, granted, they're not going to hear, all the most important things, but sometimes they can pick up on stuff. And the big thing that stood out to me, like last year, I believe it was how many times did we hear during OTAs and training camp, Matt LaFleur bragging on Carl Brooks. Great job, Carl. Great job, Carl. Those are the things I want to hear. I want to hear, first of all, what are they going to call Javon Bullard? What's going to be his nickname? I hope it's Bull. Would that not be awesome, bro, if they called him Bull?
That'd be great, yeah. It's funny, too, because I listened to Ryan's pod this morning, and in Ryan fashion, like always, he started the podcast. He goes, I'm basically going to cut a lot of people off at the knees. I want to go back and read the headlines from the last OTAs and kind of like the splash, talking about Keyshawn Nix is going to blitz a lot, and talking about certain guys, Samari Torres exploding, just certain things like that and certain narratives. So I think we do need to, and you guys know I'm a late round guy. I'm a kind of the guy that loves the 6th and 7th rounders and the UDFAs and the good stories and all that kind of stuff. But Ryan's mostly correct on that kind of stuff. Most of them aren't going to work out, but it is fun to look back and see what the hype was last year versus what the hype is this year. One thing he highlighted too was that all the articles were like, we're unproven at quarterback. We're unproven in the wide receiver room. We're unproven in the tight end room. And it's like, I would argue that those are now very solidified. All three of those categories there, positional groups, are like, you got to take your hat off to Goody, because we took a lot of our weaknesses. Tim always talks about it. We took weaknesses and turned them into positives. And if anything, I think people are sleeping on the fact that our wide receiver room is so deep and so talented, as well as our tight end group, to be honest. So,
yeah, I think too, man. I agree. I think that last year we were kind of the underdogs. Everybody was expecting us to take a huge step back with obviously Aaron going to New York. And it didn't happen to their chagrin, I think is the right way of saying that. The Packers obviously finished 9-8 and completely boat raced the Cowboys in the playoffs. This season it's a little bit different. There's higher expectations. It sounds like everyone has pretty much set the floor around 10 wins. But I'm with you, man. They're still sleeping on some of these position groups. I really believe that. This is kind of cool here. Or Showers makes a great point. He said, I'd be scared not to show up if I were a Packers vet who isn't going to have to fight for their job. It's a great point, man. I mean, that's another thing, too, that might kind of, that whole rising tide raises all ships, one of those type of deals. If you don't show up, bro, you might lose your job.
Yeah, really. Who was the guy that who was the defensive end, the edge, that just decided that he wasn't going to show? Remember, for 2 days or 2 years in a row?
Jonathan Garvin, yeah.
Jonathan Garvin, bro.
We kept talking about. Jacob was like, bro, what are you doing? You're not that good. Like,
I couldn't believe it. And he was like, nah, man, I'll stand. I'm just gonna keep my ground. It's like, what are you doing? I really like the guy. I thought he was another, I think, 6th or 7th rounder that I saw some promise in, and he just decided not to put in the work, man. It was kind of crazy. Bates, here, this is gonna settle it. Bates says it's bullseye, pitbull. Pitbull would be cool.
Oh, yeah.
Not bulls, you know what?
Exactly. Our Showers went on to say too. He said, Javon Bullard is good too. Sounds country and down with the people. JB will pick with pick number 3. He seems like he's pretty well grounded. The thing that stood out to me hearing people talk about him leading up through the draft process, and you guys know Jacob, I'm going to continue to say this, he brought him to our attention first and foremost, like, hey, this might be my favorite safety in the draft. And we watched the highlights and was like, wow, there's a lot to like there. So as you see more and more scouting reports come out on him from people like Greg Cosell and of course Daniel Jeremiah's and people like that, extremely intelligent, high football IQ. That's really exciting. And you could see it transfer over on the tape too, just always in the right spot. A lot of fun to watch. Ron Samble in the chat says, Jair Alexander, 75% attendance to voluntary equals $700,000, if I remember correctly. That's correct. People were trying to go, see, he just hated Joe Barry. And I try not to go down this road because I know it's just going to be divisive, but anyone who sent me a message going, yeah, look at that, Jair's happy now. It's like, no, bro, he's actually got $700,000 on the table this year. That's let's conveniently leave that out of the conversation.
That's like life-changing money for most people. I mean, at least for a few years, or to get your goals set up, or to pay off a certain debt, just to go to practice. Not even padded practice.
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 Our shower says Garvin in the UFL now. See, Jacob, he was playing chess. We were playing checkers. He just wanted to play in the UFL, man. That's all he wanted. So
he's just trying to get his ticket.
Might have been how that happened. So, yeah. All right. Let's see here. What else we got?
Eric, yeah, definitely call me out as always. You're right. I've been secretly plotting for the last 36 years. All of a sudden, pull the mask off like Scooby-Doo and be like, oh, you're a Viking fan the whole time.
Got him right. He's got us right where he wants.
I want you, bro.
Any day now, he's gonna break our heart. Since we're kind of talking about Javon Bullard and some of the rookies and these jobs that are going to be kind of up for grabs if vets don't continue to raise their game, why don't we skip over the contract stuff and we'll come back to it? These were tweets that were sent out by PFF Packers Twitter account right after the draft, and I don't want to say we overlooked them because Lord knows we had plenty of draft coverage. I want to kind of put a nice little bow on this rookie class. And what I mean by that is, you guys know we're all draft talked out. We've been talking about the draft for what feels like 6 months now. We're going to kind of take one last walkthrough of these rookies. If time will permit, we'll do a Kalen King chalk talk, and then that'll be the last chalk talk on the rookie class. But the reality is these guys are Packers now. Right? We don't give a damn what they did at the college level now. Now you're a Green Bay Packer. Welcome to the NFL. What are you going to contribute to the team type thing, right? But let's just walk through them one last time. If I remember correctly, let's see, there was 1, 2, 3. I think they had just a quick little snippet on every player drafted other than Evan Williams and Travis Glover, okay, that were drafted by the Packers. And this kind of takes you inside of what they do well. You got something, Jacob?
No, I just wanted to see if you could. I had a few chats earlier. I spaced on it before we get into it. Could you just explain what happened last night? Because some people are like, where is the pod? Or I was watching the stream and then it went away and then I didn't know how to find it. And so maybe just.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you bringing that up. So basically, we did a chalk talk, which is totally cool. We do them all the time. Anytime you share NFL footage or college tape, you're allowed to do that. You're just not allowed to monetize on it. Well, as you guys know, the channel is not monetized currently as it sits right now. Even if it was monetized, the way it works is the YouTube AI triggers a copyright. It marks it copyright. And now whoever owns the rights to the video that was copyright hit, they get the advertisement income for it, which is totally cool. That's the way it should be, right? They're the rightful owner of that content. So we have that happen sometimes. The stream will go down and it comes right back up. That's why I told people in the chat, hey, it should come back up. But what I didn't realize was the video that we were playing on Michael Pratt that was called Believe in 7, where it kind of talks about his good friend losing his life and just a little insight into his personal life. Evidently, that's what they refer to as third-party content. And it's not the same as like the game tape and stuff where you use it and they just get the monetization of it. We weren't allowed to use it, evidently. So what happened was when it when it triggered the AI, whatever the exclusive content, the copyright content, you hear the flu medicine talking now, right? I'm over here stammering and stuttering. When it triggered that, basically what happened was they just take the stream down. Now, they sent me an email, and they were really nice about it. They were just like, hey, this is third-party content. You're not allowed to use it. This is not a copyright strike. This is a warning, though. Be careful on some of the stuff that you share, essentially. So that's why it went down. Now, some people were saying, hey, it magically popped back up around 10:45. Well, what I did was I went back through and edited that clip out. So it's just the chalk talk before you get to Michael Pratt's story. Okay, so that's the video that's up now. It's not under the live tab. It's under the video tab, which we don't have many videos because we just do all live streams. So that's where you can find that chalk talk, and that's why that happened. But thank you for asking that, Jake, because I know there were many people asking that question for sure. So that's all it was. And again, YouTube was really cool about it. It's frustrating because we've talked about it over and over and over. And I don't want to bash YouTube, but their rules are very, 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 very vague. So when stuff happens, you don't get like this concrete answer as to what you did wrong. In this case, you did, and I appreciated that for sure. It was nice to just know, okay, that's what happened. So, yeah.
Carly Ray.
You got Carly Ray in the house. How you doing, Carly?
I'm doing all right. How are you guys doing?
Carly, you rocking the hair tonight? It's looking good. I'm just saying.
Thanks. I took it down from the ponytail after working in the garden,
There you go.
Letting it loose.
What are we planting this year? That's what I need to know.
Oh, man. Tomatoes, lots of tomatoes. Oh, it's my favorite. I like to plant flowers, honestly. I really like to have like tons of sunflowers so I can have a bouquet all summer long once they start blooming. So give it to people, So that's and to delivering random bouquets of flowers to random people is like my favorite pastime in the summer. So lots of flowers this year.
Mandy's the same way, and she always jokes. My grandmother said one time when I was growing up, and it was the only grandparent I really got to meet. And unfortunately, she got like dementia when I was pretty young, so I don't have a whole lot of great memories with her. But she said one time, Mandy heard it. She said, "You show me a house with no flowers, I'll show you a sorry ASS woman that lives there." Is what she always said. So, yeah, Mandy's all about the flowers. There's flowers everywhere here at the house. So, believe me, I have to help sometimes. I kick and scream helping plant them too. I hate it, but they look good though. So let's get into these rookie, just like I said, these quick glimpses into these rookies, okay? And again, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I think 8 rookies. And this is just PFF kind of highlighting, here is what these guys do really well, okay? So Jordan Morgan, obviously the 25th overall pick. PFF Packers says Jordan Morgan since 2022, 880 pass blocking snaps, only 31 quarterback pressures allowed, only 3 sacks allowed. So, we talk about him being a great run blocker, Jacob. Obviously, Jordan Morgan, when you look at those numbers, man, for the last 2 years of his college career, pretty darn good pass blocker too, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think we drastically overrated how good Morgan could be. I mean, I don't want to keep harping back to Mr. Bill Belichick, but again, when he was on that live stream with Pat, he's straight. What are you drinking out of there, Clay?
That's my hippie mug. You see that?
What are you doing over there?
I thought it was just me with the flu medicine, man. I thought I was tripping out, but no, it's actually the glass. So.
Maybe he's got some. Well, all right, never mind. So I just think that we may be sleeping on the fact. I really do think Jordan Morgan is going to be a really good player, and I love the fact that he can be dominant in the run game if he needs to be. But he's also, 3 sacks allowed. Yep. I mean, that's insane. Even 31 quarterback pressures, that alone is, that's pretty good. And 880 pass blocking snaps. I mean, you can't really ask for much better than that, realistically.
No, you really can't. And obviously you see the C on his chest. The other thing too that I noticed is when he came in, one of the first things he said is, I want to be left tackle. And he specifically said, I want to protect Jordan's blind side. Yeah, and some people that kind of rubs the wrong way, like a rookie, just fit you get in where you fit in type thing, right? If we want you to play guard, play guard. He didn't say he wouldn't play somewhere else.
He also said, I'm willing to play anywhere, but I'm a left tackle and I want to be a left tackle in this league.
Yeah.
So.
I just love that when someone comes in, it's like, hey, look, I want what he's basically saying. I want the responsibility of protecting the franchise. That's pretty cool, man. I don't know how you feel, Carly, but if you were to start a business or you were to have responsibility over a larger group of people, and somebody came to you and said, "Hey, put all the responsibility on my back," that's the type of person I want on my team.
For sure.
Yeah, pretty cool. All right, next up, Edgerrin Cooper. All right, Edgerrin Cooper, the only linebacker, this is PFF Packers, the only linebacker with an 85-plus grade in all three categories in 2023. Run defense, pass rush, and coverage. So you hear that and you immediately think maybe they will have him playing a little Sam in the 4-3. Maybe he will be the wheelbacker, right, and fire off on some of those blitzes. But Edgerrin Cooper, we've talked about it pretty extensively, Jacob. He's one of those guys that last year, I mean, just you couldn't play any better than he played last year. Now, the previous 2 years, obviously, a little bit different story. But I think we got us a dog there in Edgerrin Cooper. Seems like he's got a great attitude as well.
Yeah. I just wish he learned how to wear his uniform, right? He can't get the shirt down. The knee pads are up on his thighs. What are you doing, Eds? Come on, buddy. No, being real,
Jacob, you're trying to make a fashion statement. I love it.
Yeah, right. I mean, come on, dude, get the drip. If you were to, like you said, look at him last year, that's the only thing about him that I'm a little bit hesitant on, is that we didn't see it consistently. But I would like to think that, his athletic ability, just the freak way. We watched his Chalk Talk.
Hey, it's Kaylee Cuoco for Priceline. Ready to go to your happy place for a happy price? Well, why didn't you say so? Just download the Priceline app right now and save up to 60% on hotels. So whether it's Cousin Kevin's Kazoo Concert in Kansas City, go Kevin, or Becky's Bachelorette Bash in Bermuda, you never have to miss a trip ever again. So download the Priceline app today. Your savings are waiting.
Go to your happy place for a happy price. Go to your happy price, Priceline.
I'm Alex Rodriguez.
And I'm Jason Kelly.
From Bloomberg, this is The Deal. Each week, you'll hear us in conversation with business icons.
This show will explore deal-making across sports, media, and entertainment.
That is a harsh lesson in business.
Sports is not as simple as bringing a bunch of big names together.
I didn't want to do another stomp you out speech.
It opened up so many more doors.
The show is called
The Deal.
Listen to The Deal.
Listen to The Deal on Spotify.
You're a podcast listener, and this is a podcast ad. Reach great listeners like yourself with podcast advertising from Lips and Ads. Choose from hundreds of top podcasts offering host endorsements, or run a reproduced ad like this one across thousands of shows to reach your target audience with Lips and Ads. Go to lipsandads.com now. That's LIBSYN ads.com. You're a podcast listener, and this is a podcast ad. Reach great listeners like yourself with podcast advertising from Lips and Ads. Choose from hundreds of top podcasts offering host endorsements, or run a reproduced ad like this one across thousands of shows to reach your target audience with Lips and Ads. Go to lipsandads.com now. That's LIBSYN ads.com.
I mean, the guy is just a missile. We talked about, they had a certain type of player in mind when they went into this draft, and they got him. And I really do think that hopefully this will translate. Hopefully between him and Quay, they kind of feed off each other in a way, because I mean, he was just unbelievably good. And I don't know what to think. What would you say would be the toughest position in the NFL to come into as a rookie other than quarterback? Would you think it would be? I mean, I've heard people talk about how a tight end is crazy because you have to learn all the pass protections. You have to learn all the passing routes. You have to learn all the run schemes. You have to learn all that kind of blocking and all that stuff. So to me, that highlights, but like linebackers got to be pretty tough too, because you're covering every single thing the offense does, right? So
yeah, especially if you step right into the micro and you're wearing the green dot. But I'm with you. I think tight end is the position that gets talked about the most, because you've got to know all the run keys. You got to know all the pass key. Like, you've got to know every aspect of the game when you're at the tight end position. And some people would say, well, that goes for every position, right? I remember Mark Tauscher here recently telling a story. They asked him, how tough was it, learning to play tackle as a rookie or whatever. He said there was many times they broke the huddle, ready, break. They're walking to the line, and he looked at the right guard that was a veteran and said, hey, what do I do here? Is that a pass or a run? That's what he would say, literally. Like, what's the play call, basically? He didn't even know the playbook hardly. So, I think linebacker, especially if you're playing Mike, would be tough for sure. Or maybe even I think of like Carrington Valentine comes to mind for me. And you guys remember the play last year where he was playing off in a situation where the play call was he was supposed to play up close, and it's because he didn't get the call. I think another hard position as to play as a rookie, Jacob, would be that cornerback on those given Sundays where you're the farthest away from your sideline and having to get those calls and really paying attention and not letting the game get too big for you, that type of thing. So that's kind of what comes to mind for me.
What do you guys think about safety? Like, to me also, that just seems to be, you just have all that weight on your shoulders of, you're the last line of defense. You kind of have to see what's going on, and you can't let yourself get beat. And then just to come into that and realize that, yes, you're part of a team, but that is just also another just huge role where you have to be able to figure stuff out pretty darn quick. And if you screw up, there's nobody saving you.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And especially in today's game where both safeties have to be able to play up and down, and in a specific situation where someone might use a cheat motion or they may just use a pre-snap motion and reset, you've got to adjust it. Now you got to know what changes within the defense of your run fit. So not only do you have to worry about covering passing concepts, but you've also, like you said, you're the last line of defense in some cases if you're playing that post safety or a too high shell. But also you got to be willing to get in there and make a tackle and know where your run fit is. Because if you're off on your run fit, it screws the whole run defense up. It really does. What we mean by that is like everyone on every defensive play call, everybody's got their own gap assignment, right? You're responsible for this gap. And it means don't get out of your rush lane until the play is already broken down and the running back is out of that rush lane type thing. So, I think that's another position, Carly, that would come to mind. I think what we're learning here is all of them are, as a rookie, you're coming in I remember I was a knucklehead, man. When I was 21, 22, 23 years old, I didn't have a damn clue how the world worked. I could only imagine being thrown into a stadium of 70,000 people and going, hey, all right, here's, people think, okay, it's defense, you tackle. Right? You're going to go, you just run up and tackle somebody. You just knock the ball down. No. Let me give you an example. At the college level, and it's more complex at the pro level. I heard a college defensive coordinator. I'm sure Coach Lynn can attest to this. Heard a college defensive coach, wasn't even a coordinator, talk about cover three, just specifically cover three in this college scheme. And they had 18 different, I think it was either 15 or 18 different cover three calls, meaning cover three buzz means this, cover three hard flat means that, cover three sink means this. And each play call, you got to know where your assignment changes. It's not just, okay, we're just playing three deep and it's zone coverage. It's just spot drop. There's a lot of, and then you get into the zone match aspect. It's pretty difficult. See, I could see safety and DB being tough too. But the one thing that stood out to me about Chalk Talk that we did on Edgerrin Cooper, Jacob, the whole time, every play, I just remember you snickering in the background like a little kid because it was just, you were amazed at the plays he was making, right? We haven't seen that.
We watched, and he does kind of his first step is always so awesome. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't overcommit. It seems like he's very, very, I mean, obviously we're watching highlights, so take that with a grain of salt. But when we watched him be as good as he can be, it was like he has that one stab step kind of thing where he just makes a decision and he goes, and he is there faster than, I mean, what was the one where the quarterback rolled out and like never thought he would close the gap kind of thing? Like he didn't even have time to throw it away. He thought, well, I got this. Oh no, I don't. And then he just, if he can take that to the next league, to the NFL, obviously, I mean, I don't expect greatness right away, but I do expect at least just, I don't know what the word is. I guess I hope he's not even our 4, because I'd like him to be better than like a Wilson or even McDuffie right out of the gate. Cause I mean, he was a pretty high draft pick there. So I want him to come in and show. I hope, I think that's another thing about these OTAs is like, get these guys in here, get them used to each other, get them confident in the fact that they can go out and make plays. I mean, I remember being a young kid. Anytime you were walking up to a new team, I don't care how confident you are in yourself.
You're intimidated.
The nerves hit you. The intimidation hits you. The fact that you don't know what you're doing hits you. But once you're comfortable in it, and once people like, anytime that anybody older than you or that has more experience reaches out and says, hey, dude, like this is what you do. This is what you don't do. Watch out for this guy. Watch out for that guy. This is when we eat. Like that'll help you a lot. So I really do hope that that it seems like this team is so young that nobody has that. Like I'm a vet. You don't talk to me. I'm a vet.
Right.
And I hate to bring up again the old guy, but it seemed like there was this era of like rookies got to earn our respect before we even look their way. And now it's
yeah.
And I think now it's more of the case that this is a team, this is a family. You've already been quote unquote adopted into this family. Now let's make you a full blown member. Like, let's go. And I really do think that's better than what I think the locker room's better than what we had before.
Yeah, and I'll say the quiet part out loud, Jacob. You're talking about Aaron Rodgers.
No.
Aaron and David Bakhtiari, they kind of had that impact on the team. Like, hey, look, rookies, this is how we do things. And that can be a good thing, but also, like you said, man, when you get these guys that Goody talks about all the time, they're kind of growing up together in the game. It's important. It really is. It's funny you were mentioning that intimidation. I try not to laugh because I immediately went back to, 1999 and being a junior in high school and starting, varsity baseball, and where our baseball field sat in this valley next to Southeast Community College back home in Kentucky. And the bus, any traffic coming, there was only one way in and one way out of this holler, right? And that's where the ball field sat. This bus, every time we had an away team show up, they had to come in around this big curve, and you'd see them about a half a mile away. And they'd say, there they are. Every time we'd say, there they are. And your heart would kind of, and get pumping a little bit. All right, let's go. Put your game face on type thing. There is a little bit of an intimidation factor. And it's not a, oh my God, I'm scared of them. It's all right. About cussed. Woo, that was close. Get your crap together. Let's go, dude. Get your mind right. They're here. Let's roll. Let's embarrass them type thing. Our Showers in the chat said, I didn't realize Anthony Johnson actually got a lot of run, including versus Dallas in the playoffs. He didn't look bad. Yeah, you kind of get two different opinions on Anthony Johnson Jr. Showers. If you look at PFF, they would suggest he played really bad. Now, you've got to kind of look at the PFF grades and then think, okay, there's a reason the team kept marching him out there too. And you're exactly right. He played a lot of snaps. And as a 7th-round pick, it's like him and Carrington. I give them a little bit of a pass. I'm not going to be the one to say they were good players. But the fact that they were, 7th-round picks or wherever they were both taken, and they contributed to the team, that says a lot.
Thrown in, and you look at it like that's the type of mistakes, the exact one you talked about with Carrington, not knowing maybe not necessarily even that they failed him, but the fact that he was on the far side of the field. He's a rookie. Maybe he doesn't know to look at like your cornerbacks coach. He's like telling you some sort of college-like hand signal, or maybe one of the guys is trying to tell you something and not yell it out loud, something like that. Just the fact that he hasn't been there. I think they did pretty darn well for all things considered. So,
yeah, I agree, man. Eric Sutherland said, Showers, I like Anthony Johnson. He had a couple horrible mistakes, but seemed to hold his own. I think it's a good floor, You expect this guy right here, Javon Bullard, to come in here and take that job. I really do. Xavier McKinney one side, Javon Bullard on the other. And it's really nice to know if Bull gets banged, I'm going to call him Bull until someone says you're not allowed to. If Bull gets banged up, then, hey, you've got a guy that has all those starts under his belt from last year that can step into that role. And who knows, maybe Anthony Johnson Jr. can be an ace on special teams, right? Some of these guys that got a lot of starting playing time last year, now they take a step back because you got, some other guys that are a little more qualified to play those positions. They can really key in on special teams and make a bigger difference there too. I think it can be that way. So,
and isn't he 23? Like he's still
he's really young, yeah.
A player that's yet to be molded.
Yeah. Shower says, I went looking for Anthony Johnson footage because of Jacob. I see what he likes there. So, all right, let's see.
I'm a big Anthony Johnson fan too. He likes Ant, as he calls him.
Yeah, he loves him. Yeah. The thing I love about Tim's a big nickname guy. That's why me and Tim hit it off the bat, right? I mean, because I grew up in a Bacher family. Everyone had nicknames. I could rattle them off, man. Bear, Buff, Benny Sue, Sleepy. These are all people that I grew up with. And, man, some of them are probably in the clink right now. I'm just being real. Yeah. Good people, though. Good people just they live life a little different. I'll just say that. So, and then you grow up playing sports. I was big on nickname. Everybody had a nickname. Like my dad, tattoo artist, his nickname was Mad Dog. Everybody in town knew him as Mad Dog. Guess what that made me? Mad Puppy. Everybody in town. It's just I was big. I love nicknames, and you got to be careful with that stuff because some people take it as an insult that their name isn't good enough that you got to call them something else. But that's what I love about Tim. Tim, we're definitely on the same page with that. Antonio Universe says, what are the chances the Pack carry 3 quarterbacks? Pratt in year 2 will challenge Clifford. I think Pratt may challenge Clifford in year 1, to be honest with you, but this is a topic that we've kind of thrown around a little bit, Jacob. That's tough, man. I think there's a chance they could carry 3 quarterbacks. The reality is they really like Sean Clifford, man. They drafted him pretty high, and people seen that as a reach. He was ranked in the 500s on the consensus big board, and they took him way early because they probably caught a little birdie that, hey, someone else is on him too. But what do you think? You think there's a chance they carry 3 this year, man?
I really do, yeah. I don't think I just don't think it's the Green Bay way to take an actual semi-high draft pick on obviously Clifford and any draft pick at all on a quarterback just to let him go. I mean, we got guys like Alex Magoo that stuck around for a while. You got guys like Kirk Bankert that stuck around for a while that had really no type of, I shouldn't say really no, but didn't really have a high pedigree kind of thing. I think also if you're a guy like Pratt, you want to be in Green Bay. I mean, it's like I think I saw in his draft video, or maybe like a highlight after the fact, he talked about how he understands that they groom quarterbacks very well in Green Bay. No matter if you're the starter, if you're the second, third string, whatever it is, you're getting coached by, isn't it Tom Clements? Is that the kind of the quarterback whisperer there? Nope. And the fact that LaFleur is so great at doing that kind of stuff as well. I just think for a young man, if you're going to fall that far in the draft, I don't think there's a better landing spot to go to than the Packers. I just don't think that's if I was him, other than the fact that I maybe missed out on however many hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars from I thought the guy was going to go in round 2. I'm not going to lie. I really did, because especially when you saw 6 go in the first round, and I heard a lot of scouts that liked him more than a few of the guys that went. So
yeah.
So you don't think they'd like put him on the practice squad or something? Because I was thinking with Alex Magoo, you don't think he would? Because I was wondering with Alex Magoo there, and he was, I guess, kind of trying out as receiver. They technically have a third if they keep him. And so is it also like the Packers to keep just an extra spot on the roster when they could use it for some other player that is much more likely to get hurt, or some other spot that they're going to really need to depend on more?
I think they're trying to sneak Magoo in that role maybe out of the squad so that they could. Is he eligible still for that?
Yeah, should be, I believe. And we need to get a concrete definition of how the rules apply there now, because COVID changed all that. Obviously, it used to just be 10 players on the practice squad. They could do it for 2 years, and that's it. I think they extended the amount of years that they can be on it, and they extended the practice squad roster too. It seemed like it was an odd amount too, like 17 or something weird. But yeah, so if you're asking me right now, do I think they carry 3 quarterbacks? If I was building the roster, the way I would approach it, I think Pratt carries more value than Sean Clifford. I would try to sneak Sean Clifford on the practice squad and keep Pratt on the active roster. That's just me. And some people would say, well, why would you do that? Are they really going to, to utilize him in that manner? I mean, look at what they did with your boy Brenton Cox Jr. last year, Jacob. They didn't hardly play him at all, and they had him on the active roster because they didn't want somebody to grab him, right? So could be something like that. Randy Cleaver's in the chat says, isn't there practice squad / emergency rules? There's some kind of emergency quarterback rule, but we read it off one day, and if we understood it correctly, they've got to be on the active roster. You got to carry them on the active 53. I don't think they count towards the game day activation of whatever it is, 45 or 47. That was the perk that you had there. It was like, okay, they're not going to count toward one of those game day activation numbers, but they do have to be on your active 53. So when you're talking whether or not you're carrying 3 quarterbacks on your active roster or not, really doesn't apply in this situation. The question is still there. Do you want to carry 3 or do you want to carry 2? And like Carly said, I think it's really important whether or not you carry a third, because that's going to take a position away that you may need if you get banged up at a position, Badger Trio asking the tough questions. Is Anders Carlson losing 17? We talked about it earlier a little bit. I don't know what to think of that. And me and Jacob kind of tossed it around a bit. To me, it kind of feels like, again, the number 7 is really, really important to him. Obviously, he's not going to go into camp with number 7 because that's Quay Walker's number. But also you've got Greg Joseph, who's coming in to compete with Anders Carlson for the kicker position. And I've been pretty vocal about that too. If I were building the roster and let's say they were neck and neck, I would give Greg Joseph the edge over Anders Carlson, and I would put Anders Carlson on the practice squad. And then when let's say Greg Joseph comes out and he has a good year and he tests free agency, gets a better offer. Now you got Anders with one more year under Coach Bisaccia, and then you can pop him right back on the active roster. He's your kicker again, type thing. But who knows, man? Anders may come out here in camp and in mini camp and later on in the year in July in training camp and just absolutely light it up, and we just cut Joseph and move on. That could happen too, right? But yeah, as far as that 17. I really don't know what to think. It's all speculation, but I do know the reason that Michael Pratt chose 17 is because the number 7 is near and dear to his heart from his buddy who lost his life. That was the whole purpose of the Believe in 7, little mini documentary that we hit on. Last question here. We'll get back to the rookies. United Bates says, sorry, are there any teams whose green dot is not a mic? Maybe like someone in the secondary. I don't know that answer definitively, Bates. It seems like I've heard people talk about safeties wearing the green dot from time to time, like a free safety, like almost like an Ed Reed type. Now, obviously, I'm sure Ray Lewis wore the green dot when he was there. But if I remember correctly, I believe Ed outlasted Ray in Baltimore. And it seems like, I could be wrong, but it seems like Ed wore the green dot when Ray was gone. I'm pretty sure that's how that all unfolded, that he lasted longer than Ray, but I could be wrong. Nonetheless, I don't see why you couldn't, but the reason the mic is typically the one that wears the green dots because he's right in the middle of the defense. Yeah. And if they're making those calls, he's the first one to get the call, right? He gets the call through the headset. He relays it to everyone. So the information has had a split second longer to register in his mind. And then as they come set, if someone has a question and hey, what about, real quick, just ask him for a key. He's right in the middle. He can answer everyone. It's the opposite effect of what we just talked about with Carrington Valentine being on that island off on his own and on the boundary there and couldn't get the call. So hopefully that answers your question, buddy. I would imagine someone had wore the green dot in the secondary before, probably the safety position, definitely not corner, especially being on the outside. So let's see here. Badger Trio says, if I remember, Crosby struggled year one. Yeah, we actually run the numbers. And if you looked at Mason Crosby's his field goal percentage compared to Anders Carlson, they were right there in the same ballpark. As a matter of fact, I think Anders had a higher field goal percentage. Now, people immediately said, well, yeah, but look at all the extra points he missed. The large majority of Mason's career, and again, when he first started his career, those were being snapped at the 2-yard line. Now they're pushed way back. So you got to kind of throw those out, in my opinion. But yeah, it's something that happens. Daniel Carlson, Anders' brother, if I remember correctly, was a highly touted kicker. He struggled year one, team cut him, and then he went on to be a great kicker, right? So sometimes it takes a year or two to get those things kind of straightened out. All right, let's move on to your boy here, Jacob, and that's Javon Bullard. PFF Green Bay Packers put Javon Bullard 34.0 passer rating allowed in coverage in 2023. And what's crazy, when we did Chalk Talk, Jacob, yes, you could see the coverage ability, but also the thing that stood out the most to me was his run fits and the angles he took, the break on the ball, that first step quickness. He processes, he plays with his eyes really well. You guys heard me talk about Tyler Nubin, how he plays a half a step ahead with his eyes. You've seen something very, very similar with Javon Bullard. And listen, I'm not trying to be the weirdo here, but look at the quads on that dude too. Like, he's not a small guy. I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, this is the guy that Half was talking about when Half said this right here.
Thick.
Exactly the person he was talking about.
Have you ever experienced turbulence on a flight and wondered why?
And you can see all the terrain around you. You've got no issue with visibility or anything?
No, everything's PG.
Maybe you've sat on the tarmac for hours wondering why your plane isn't moving.
Well, we're outside here. They're saying the ramp is closed. They won't let us park because of Air Force One.
Listen in on the conversations between pilots and air traffic controllers on the Air Traffic Out of Control podcast.
510 Whiskey declaring an emergency. There's smoke in the cabin. I need to make a landing right now on 31 left.
We have the most interesting, wild, and funny ATC recordings you will ever hear. Check out Air Traffic Out of Control wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
So He is, man. He's and he's only going to put a little more muscle on that. I'm telling you, man, when I watch the college tape and I look at him here, just kind of how he's built, he reminds me of Nick Collins. He really does, man. Go ahead, Jacob. I see all the he's thick coming through.
No, I mean, like, obviously he was my draft crush. I think maybe my favorite player in the whole draft. And what you guys, if you remember when we watched that highlight film, I was more excited about his run defense. The way that he, again, similar compound as a lot of these guys where he doesn't take on blocks. Well, he does. He can take on blocks. He can extend the arms, shed, and then still make a play. But he's also really good at just straight avoiding getting wrapped up in the wash. And again, like we talked about with Edgerrin Cooper, he seems to make like his first step. He diagnoses the play and then boom, he goes. He doesn't stop. He doesn't wait. No more are the days of Packers old when they just sit there and they wait. And then they get hit and they get driven back 3 yards. This guy's coming in, taking an angle, hitting you, and then they go back 3 yards. And it's absolutely amazing to see. I hope that it keeps up. I hope that he inspires a lot of the other guys. We talked about Jair. I hope that, Jair used to be a dog. He used to throw around his body like it was a dart, man. And obviously I think he had that arm injury, I think that kind of made him, get a little bit more tentative. But I think that we've got such a young group of dudes now that they are all going to be competing and they're going to be running a million miles an hour. So, yeah,
I agree, man, completely. Next rookie, Marshawn Lloyd, running back out of USC. And Carly, you just chime in if you got anything, okay? Marshawn Lloyd in 2023, 47 missed tackles, career best, 87.2 rushing grade. We watched the tape. Man, was that a fun watch, too. Just a guy who's very patient in the backfield. They ran a lot of gap scheme. They ran a lot of GT power, pin and pull, things like that. So it kind of makes you think maybe we're going to get a little more back to that like we did 2 years ago. As we're last year, we started to lean a little more. If I remember correctly, we had plenty of pin and pull last year, but we also ran a lot of zone last year. Marshawn Lloyd, man, he can be an exciting one. I think that he does everything pretty good. Maybe he doesn't do anything like elite, but I think he's very good at every aspect. We've seen him on those. I'm trying to think of the word that's used for the pass. For me on Chalk Talk, it was a play action go, essentially. Play fake to him. He attacked the seam on a skinny seam route, a skinny post, and just a natural catcher of the football. I didn't see any flaws to his game other than the fumbles, which the listeners have pointed out many times. And it is an issue, right? Other than that, I think Marshawn Lloyd's looking pretty solid, man.
And I mean, look at his thighs. I mean, thick.
Yes.
Thick.
Got to hit it twice. Thick. I got to give you one of these, Jacob, since you hit it twice.
You're an amazing person. You know that, don't you?
What do you think of Marshawn Lloyd, bro?
I mean, Randy Clevers says this here, and this is not something that I would usually just be like, oh, yeah. But, I mean, the ability for him to stop and start so quickly. If you remember about Barry Sanders, he would plant his foot, and before that the defender could figure out what was going on, he was so quick out of that acceleration, and he changed complete direction on the field. If you watch his highlights, he really does have a little bit of Barry, and that's the best compliment I can ever give any football player ever is if you compare him to Barry Sanders. He does have that unbelievable ability to stop and start really quickly, like super quickly. And I just think LaFleur saw that and he just went, okay, like we'll work on the fumble stuff. We'll figure that out.
Yeah, I think he's Go ahead, Carly.
I like what Professor Cake said here. He said Lloyd is the center of gravity, similar to a cannonball. Imagine trying to tackle him.
Yes, it's true. And when you compare him to like a Barry Sanders, and listen, it's strictly build, guys. We're not saying he's going to be Barry Sanders. Please don't take us the wrong way.
No.
But low center of gravity, great contact balance. Like you said, that start-stop ability. I challenge everybody. Go if you haven't watched any Barry Sanders, I guarantee you there's somebody right now. I know who Barry is, but I haven't watched much Barry. Go get a highlight reel and watch what he did. I think it was either the Patriots or the Cowboys. That one play where he broke like 13 tackles. People were going, there's only 11 players on the field, Clayton. I know. He still broke like 13 tackles. It was unbelievable. He had guys turning them around backwards. That start-stop. His ankles too, man. It would almost look like his ankles would dislocate the way that he could it's just wild. And as talking about a class act, the only thing bad about Barry Sanders is he played for the crappy Lions. Other than that, you talking about just just a perfect human being and a great football player, man. He's probably to this day, if someone asks me, hey, who is your favorite football player of all time? It's probably Barry Sanders. It really is.
Ron
He's so much fun to watch.
He doesn't know how Sanders' knees held up well. It's because he knew when to leave the game. That's why.
That's a good point, too. We never got to see the broken down version. That's right.
Yeah.
So Marshawn Lloyd, I'm excited again. If you hit on Marshawn Lloyd, his contract details, his cap hit for 2024, first year, obviously, on the team, I want to say it was like, what, $1.3 million. Marshawn Lloyd, his full contract, 4 years, $5.8 million. So that's an average salary of $1.4 million per year. So if you hit on him and you hit on Josh Jacobs, unfortunately, you let A.J. Dillon walk unless he comes back on a pretty much a minimum contract again. I mean, you're in a good spot in the running back position for the next 2 to 4 years for sure. And if Josh Jacobs, let's say after year 3, Marshawn Lloyd has kind of overtaken him somehow, some way, then what you do is you just let Josh Jacobs walk, free up that cap room, and now you got Marshawn Lloyd as the lead dog. And guess what you do? You draft another 2nd, 3rd, 4th round running back and let that be the backup. CL Freeman says, best Packers playoff D was holding Barry Sanders to -6 yards. Unbelievable. That was, if I remember correctly, that was Barry Sanders' last game at Lambeau, I believe. Was it? I think it was. It was a playoff game. I remember. I know I may be getting it mixed up because also another cool fun fact, I know Jim Taylor's last game was at Lambeau Field, and they not Jim Taylor, Jim Brown for the Cleveland Browns. They absolutely shut him down, too. That was one of, if not his last games, too, was at Lambeau Field when the great Lombardi defense shut him down way back in the day. It's another fun watch. Go watch Jim Brown run from back in the day, man. This time of the year is the best time to do it. People are like, oh, there's no football. There's football every second of the day. You just go to YouTube and type in this player's name or this year, this team, and it's all the football you could ever watch, man. So that's what I do this time of year, that, and I get back into the books, audio books, football books. Right now I'm going back through Gridiron Genius and about to start restart another Bill Walsh book, too, coming up here called The Winning Edge. So
Ron has a good point here, too, that I think a lot of the reason why the Packers maybe, the Packers, they don't just like a guy because he's quick or he's fast. They want a well-rounded player. They want a good person. They want all these kinds of things. I think he did. They saw how much they didn't use him a lot as far as in the run game compared to what they did because they were a pretty pass-heavy USC team. Apparently, I shouldn't say apparently, I thought he was pretty good in pass protection. Ron seems to agree. I think that's what the Packers might like about him, too, because remember, we had Aaron Jones, and he got a knock for being, he's a smaller guy. Aaron Jones pass protected pretty darn well for being the size he was. So,
really did, man. Really did. If you guys would, I know we got a herd of people in here right now. Just take a quick second, hit that like button for us. If you like this content, feel free to subscribe to the channel as well. If you don't like this content, just change the channel and pretend like we didn't even see each other. All right. Well, we appreciate y'all dropping through for sure. Let's move on. We got to go rapid fire. We're at the 50-minute mark, gang. Up next, Tyron Hopper. Obviously, this was what pick was this? Pick 91. This was the Aaron Rodgers pick right here, right? Or no, this was the Rasul Douglas pick. I'm sorry. So this is the one that Tim had earmarked all year long. All right, let's see what we get for Rasul. Essentially, we got Tyron Hopper. That trade is finalized now. We traded Rasul Douglas for Tyron Hopper. I'm interested to see how he performs. We did his chalk talk. I was pleasantly surprised. Again, it was a highlight reel. It wasn't showing any of the negatives. But Tyron Hopper here, according to PFF Green Bay Packers, 1 touchdown allowed in coverage in his college career. This really surprised me. So you got someone who played a lot of will backer. Obviously, you see the C on the chest, a captain at Mizzou. Only gave up 1 touchdown in 825 coverage snaps. Jacob, I ain't going to lie, man. That number surprised me. You didn't see him in his highlight reel. You didn't see him a lot in pass coverage. But sounds like he was as good as you could be preventing touchdowns there at the college level.
I mean, that surprises me too. I mean, honestly, that's a happy surprise because we looked at it on tape and we thought, man, he might just be one of those kind of like an Evan Williams where you think, I'm not sure if he really is more of a coverage guy. Maybe he's just a straight run defender / ultimate blitzer. But that makes me feel. I mean, that makes me understand maybe why Goody took such a quote unquote stretch on him or whatever you want to say that was reach. I think that. I mean that. Literally makes my eyes be like, okay, cool. Like the dude and the knock on him, I heard from, it was a Brian's podcast. One of the it was like Scout 4 or 5, which they get progressively more mean as they go on.
Right.
Scout 5 or 4, whatever, was like, he's got nothing in between the ears. The guy can't read defenses, doesn't know how to diagnose. I'm sorry, but if you've only allowed 1 touchdown in coverage and 825 coverage snaps, you at least, maybe you're the luckiest, linebacker in the world. But if you were really that quote unquote dumb, I don't think that you would be able to handle that. And I think the guy's very promising. It makes me, like I said, really excited about his potential. Maybe they saw him at a certain floor and we thought the floor was way lower than it was. I think his ceiling is a lot higher than maybe we're giving him credit for.
Yeah. Imagine that too. If he did that well, not being able to read and recognize like the scout was saying, imagine when he does put it together. You can look at it that way. Let's see here. I think I've got his RAS if I remember correctly. Let's see. Yeah, Tyron Hopper. He was a top 30 visit. His RAS was a 7.42. But if you guys remember, the Packers had a much quicker 40 time on him, if I remember correctly. Someone reported it was a 4.540, I think is what they had on him. So interesting there. All right, next player coming down the stretch here, Jacob Monk. This is another one. Yeah, there's in committee. That's an insane stat. That equals 0.001% touchdowns for the amount of coverage snaps. That's about as good as you can get. This one surprised me, man. Jacob Monk snuck up on us. Obviously, Jacob Monk he was the only draft pick by the Packers that was not on my board. You guys know I typically just go to 150. This year we went over 200. So they took Jacob Monk with the 163rd pick. And it's a pretty cool stat here from PFF Packers. Jacob Monk in 2023, 343 pass blocking snaps, only 1 sack allowed. This is a guy that many people are saying this is the center of the future here. I'm not drunk enough to taste that chicken just yet, but I will say I haven't heard anyone else say anything bad about Jacob Monk. There it is. Respect Orange, Monk, future center. Everyone seems to agree that, hey, Monk's the real deal. So anything you want to add there, Jacob?
I mean, yeah. I'll be honest. I had no idea who he was.
I don't think anybody did.
His name is Jacob Monk. I mean, his name's Jacob, so automatically I'm high on him. He's a late draft pick. I'm high on him. But the thing is once you dive in, he played some pretty good competition. Duke's, doesn't play St. Kate's School for the Blind. You know what I mean? They definitely go out there and play real competition. And also one of the best, was it Graham Barton that was next to him on that line?
Yep, sure
so,
was.
I mean, that's a guy that very highly touted, very, highly graded prospect, and nobody batted an eye at like, oh, he doesn't play a good competition. He doesn't do this. Jacob Monk, then when you watch him in his interviews, you completely understand why the Packers took him. He is just a Packers guy through and through. Seems like just a great, hardworking kid. I really do think that I'll go farther than you are willing to go, Clayton. I think that he will be our center in next year. That's what I'm going to say. I think they're going to let Myers test free agency. I don't think that we're going to pay him nearly what he will get an offer for, and I think that they're going to slide him in. That's my prediction.
Got it. I could see it, man. If I remember correctly, too, someone said he was I think he was a 5-year starter, and I think he was the only 3-year captain in NCAA.
He's a captain for sure. Yeah,
he's one of those leaders. If you hear him talk, that dude, he reminds me of Zach Tom, kind of quiet, very well spoken. You could tell he's way
he's a
more
smart dude. You can tell he's a very smart. Got it up here.
Yep, definitely. And when you look at his contract, that's the exciting part. This year, $870,000 against the cap. Let's say he does start in as the center next year, right? He just steps into that role somehow. The ads are back. Apologize for that. Let's say he does step into the starting center position next year. His cap hit would be $1 million flat next year, man. I mean, that's pretty wild. So just something to kind of keep an eye on how his cap hit this year, $870,000, then it jumps to $1 million, then it jumps to $1.1 million, then $1.2 million. That's how you stay way down on that cap. Just hitting on some of these later round guys. Up next, probably the most popular draft pick. Definitely, if you watch the live stream and you go back and watch our reaction, this is the one that got the loudest pop out of the Packernet crew. It's our very own Katan Home Depot. This is Katan Oladapo. Career best 91.3 run defense grade in 2023. You guys were wondering, that's first among Power 5 safety. This dude right here, I'm telling you, you can do it. You can build a defense. He can help. I'm telling you, this is the guy right here. Now, seriously, when you watch him play, man, I think he could play free safety. He could play strong safety. I would rather not see him in the slot. I think he'd be kind of wasted in the slot. I want to see him down there in that box because this dude will bring the thump. We've seen him play the ball. One of the most enjoyable, the more enjoyable chalk talks we've done on the rookies was definitely Oladapo, man. Jacob, is it Oladapo or Oladapo, man?
I'm going Oladapo.
Right. I'm with you.
It is decided. So
I'll go down with you on the ship, man. I'll be playing the violin. All right.
I'm just saying. Every time I hear that Home Depot, that song slaps, man. It's we got to get it somehow. I don't know how anybody's gonna get our like inside joke about that, but if I ever live to see the day where he gets announced running out of the Packers tunnel and boom, 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 I will lose my mind. I will rip my shirt off and go running through the trailer park. I swear.
I've listened to Packernet for I couldn't tell you how many. I remember the first time I remember listening to Packernet when it kind of came to me that, hey, I'm listening to this consistently was when Matt LaFleur got hired. So it was probably well before that I was listening to Packernet. I have never heard a Home Depot commercial until we did this. And now you're getting a Home Depot commercial just about every episode. I'm telling you, man, Emilio pulled some strings sitting in this chair right here. He literally, I'm not lying. He got on the chat with a representative was like, hey, man, we got a podcast and we want you guys to sponsor it. Here's why. He laid out this big description of what I'm like, this dude has had way too many daddy sodas sitting in that chair. Right there. Lo and behold, 2 weeks later, we got Home Depot ads running on the You guys are saying, is it connected? No, absolutely not. It's still a fun story, though. All right, up next, Michael Pratt. Check this out, bro. According to PFF Packers, Michael Pratt, 90 passing touchdowns since 2020. First among group of 5 quarterbacks. Okay. Group of 5 quarterbacks. 88.3 PFF grade since 2022. Third among group of 5 quarterbacks. So I think it's talking about the top 5 quarterbacks taken in that draft. Yeah.
Wow.
That's the way I understood it. So 90 passing touchdowns since 2020. And you see the BE right there on his arm, on his bicep. That's that Believe in 7 tattoo he got for his buddy. That's why he wears the number 7. I'm telling you, man, his chalk talk was impressive. He's got the wills to make stuff happen, to play off script a little bit. I seen accuracy. I seen pre-snap read. I seen post-snap adjustment and read, quick release, played on time, pretty accurate ball. I'm sure he's got some ducks in there too. Everybody does. But here's the thing that bothers me. There's a reason he fell to 245. We just don't know what it is other than it might be the injury. But I had him 131 on my board, Jacob. I think he is I think it's his job to lose as the backup quarterback. I really do.
I honestly do too. It might sound stupid, but one thing I noticed was if you go back to the video where he was in the pool and he gets the call, the dude does one of those, just jumps out of the pool onto the thing like it was nothing. Like you need to have crazy lower body strength to be able to do that. And I feel like that was like a subtle flex. Like he just was, I think he knew he was getting recorded. I think he jumped out of there, but like, think about when Aaron Rodgers, remember that offseason where he's like, I started squatting and all of a sudden I'm really, really good again. And it's like, yeah, you need to have a good lower body if you play football, dude. And I think that like, maybe should hold true that I'm pulling for the guy, late round draft pick. The only thing I don't like about it is that he's going against my other late round draft pick, Mr. Clifford, the big red dog. So I don't know. I hope that we can keep all 3 of them, to be honest. I really do.
Yeah.
And I think that he in my wildest dreams, my favorite fan scenario here is that we keep all 3 of them. He shows out in preseason, looks like an absolute phenom at quarterback. And I think the reason he failed because we had 6 quarterbacks going round 1, right?
Yep.
6 quarterbacks. I think that was a record. I might be speaking out of my butt, but
yeah, that was 6 quarterbacks in the top 12 picks too.
Yeah, and I just not that many teams looking for quarterbacks that are going to, basically 6, I would argue, is a pretty good number for. Otherwise, everybody has that kind of figured out. So I don't know, man. It's really hard for me to decide whether or not I want Clifford or Pratt. If you really had to make me choose, I think I'd go Pratt just on the athletic ability and the fact that he's younger. That's the only reason I would.
Yeah, and what that equals is another position group that's got great competition. Exactly what that means. So, and the other thing too, I think he took a step back in 2023. You're seeing the 2022 numbers. In 2023, he took a slight step back. So you're seeing two different players, at least two different players. This next one being one of those two, in Kalen King, where Goody is continuing down that blueprint of the Jaden Reed draft pick, where it's, hey, let's go back 1 year. Oh, you played great the year before. That's what we're expecting out of that player. Let's go ahead and nab him. So Kalen King, one of my favorite draft picks. He was 165 on my board. We took him at 255. Kalen King, according to PFF Packers, 90.6 coverage grade in 2022. That was fourth best amongst cornerbacks in all of college football. If you guys remember, he was projected to be as soon as the draft's over, people do a way too early mock draft. As soon as the draft's over, they move on to the next year and go, here's our first mock draft for this year, right? If I remember correctly, he was the top cornerback in last year's very first mock draft. Now, obviously, took a huge step back on the field last year. This feels just like the Jaden Reed pick, man. That, hey, you got a guy that was arguably the best cornerback in all of college football the year before. And like I said, just took a slight step back. Maybe we got great value here. He's got a chip on his shoulder. I know that. I'm excited to see him in camp. What do you think, Jake?
Yeah, I want a player that is PO'd, that he got, slumped down to that level. And he really did. He fell farther than I ever thought was possible. And like we've talked about with the Packers, it is a pattern where they, like you talked about, and honestly, Clayton, that's a big, I haven't said it to you publicly or even privately, but you made after the Jaden Reed pick came last year, we literally had like an off-camera conversation. You're like, I'm going to change my board because now that was a wrench that was thrown in that I didn't even think about. And if I'm not mistaken, you actually tweaked the whole way you rank players to add a year prior. And this year, it really did show that was a well planned move, because we drafted a few guys that absolutely hit that to a T. And this is one of them here. And, it's not like a small sample size. He was that good for that whole, we know that he can hit that floor or that ceiling. So that's, again, another guy where in the 7th round, Goody must have just been like, wait, he's still here? He's actually still on the board? I didn't even think about that. And, I have high hopes for him. He's, again, kind of like Pratt. There's not a better spot to land if you're a cornerback that wants to work and has a chip on his shoulder. If you're a cornerback at Green Bay because you got Jair and then whoever you want, you plug it in.
This is a guy too, like you see the coverage grade is great, but we've seen it over and over and over. People talk about him being able to come up and help in the run fit too. He's willing to tackle. So that goes a long way at the next level too. As far as what you're referring to with how I changed the board, essentially what I did was I added in what I was doing before is just the current, their last year in college, their PFF grade. So now I went back and added in the year before as well. So it's like 1/6 of the equation going into the final grade. I think what would probably give you a more accurate depiction of how Goody is kind of looking at these guys, I think they're going, what was their best year? And again, people like to go watch the lowlights for whatever reason. They go, yeah, well, you're watching a highlight reel. I want to know what he did bad too. GMs aren't walking through and going, all right, guys, I want every bad clip of him. I want to know what he does bad. That's just not how they think. They think, what can you bring to the team? What do they do well? We'll identify the problems when we get them here if we draft them. I want to know what's his peak performance, what is his ceiling, because we're going to get more of that out of him. What does he do really well? So the thing I would like to tweak next year for the board is if we will go back 2 years, but if that second year, if that previous year wasn't as good as the one before, then maybe not include it. And the reason being is that's what caused Edgerrin Cooper to drop on my board, because he was great this year, but the 2022 grade brought him down on my board a bit. And obviously the Packers seen him more than that, right? Like for me, Edgerrin Cooper was 70th on my board. The Packers took him at 45. If I hadn't included the 2022 grade, which was much lower than 2023, he would have been right there in that 40 range. So I think that what we'll do is it needs to be a positive net gain to include the year before, rather than that number might bring him down. Does that make sense? So
yeah, totally.
It's either approach it that way, or just say take his highest PFF grade over the last 2 years. You could just do that.
Yeah, because I think that, like you said, you have to do it your way. Otherwise, it kind of penalizes their progression.
Yep, absolutely.
You know what I mean? So,
yep. Yeah. And again, hopefully I described that well enough with my board. It's a very safe board. It's I feel really confident that these guys are high floor guys, right? It caters to the high floor guys as opposed to the very high ceiling guys, if that makes sense. So, yeah. All right. We got a couple comments we're going to hear. I see we had starred, and we'll get out of here. Our shower says, has anyone discussed Gary's fit in the 4-3? I wonder if he gets traded to a 3-4 team. I don't think he'll get traded. I think he fits a 4-3 scheme just fine. And the reason I say that's because in a 34 jam front, you've really got to be able to set the edge well. And Gary, in my opinion, that's kind of what slowed him down a touch, is not being able to just pin his ears back and go. Now that he can pin his ears back and go, I think he's going to get even more pressures than he did last year, which you guys know he absolutely dominated in pressures. He had a great year, in my opinion. So, yeah, and he played, if I remember correctly, too, Jacob, he played on the interior in a 4-3 at Michigan. Yeah, correct.
One of his things, too, when he was on the edge or defensive end at Michigan, is that's where I think a lot of people they're like, well, he didn't have the flashy stats of the sacks and all these kind of wild plays, because it seemed like Michigan coaches were like, yo, this is your assignment. This is your job. Do your job. And we all know Gary. Gary is the kind of guy that when the coach tells him to do something, he's going to do it, and he's going to do it real well. And he did it very well for Michigan's defense. So like you said, I'm interested to see him actually be able to put his hand in the dirt and just go with a couple of guys like Bullard and Quay and freaking all those other darts we have now. Like, it's going to be fun to let him, because I felt like for the last 4 years, Gary was afraid to really pin his ears back and go, because if he let that the quarterback or any of the wide receivers or the running backs, we kind of got, if he went upfield too fast, everything got washed and he couldn't be in the play.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like now he really has a chance to actually highlight his potential. I think it's going to be magic.
Definitely. Eric Sutherland says that Gary played with his hand in the dirt at Michigan. Last comment here. Eric Sutherland said, I was all in on Reed first time ever the Packers drafted my guy. That's absolutely awesome, Eric, because if you're talking about Jaden Reed, I went, who? I pulled the Snoop drop. Who? And I remember me and Ryan being live on the stream, and I swung around, looked at the draft board I had mounted, and I went, what? I missed something here. I was so pissed. I'm like, how was I so off on this? The reason being is his previous year grade through the roof. Tape looked excellent. This year, not so much. That's obviously what Goody's seen was the upside. So, all right, we're at an hour and 10 minutes. Let's wrap this big bear up. If you guys would take just a second and hit that like button for us, we'd greatly, greatly appreciate it. Thank y'all for hanging out with us on this glorious Sunday evening. Carly, you got anything you want to add before we get out of here?
I have a random quick question about tight ends, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I was listening to this pod, and they were talking about tight ends and how that there is a skill difference between like tight ends that get open or highly skilled tight ends that have to be schemed open.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of in passing, and I didn't like quite understand if there was anything deeper to than just like kind of any receiver position that can get open without a scheme is generally going to be more valuable if you could have a quarterback that can handle that and look for that person. And I didn't know if there was anything more to it, and I wanted to ask you guys.
Yeah, I think, and again, I'd have to listen to the podcast to get the full context, but on the surface, you've got some tight ends that can get open. They can create separation. They're great route runners. And you got other tight ends that just don't have that in their bag, right? They may have all the physical traits and ability in the world. They can run fast, jump high. They got the perfect build and all that, quick feet. But they haven't mastered the art of getting open. Travis Kelce's a perfect example. Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes goes, Kel, just go get open. Taylor's up there watching, go get open. And just, you know what I mean? And he gets open. You got other guys like Luke Musgrave. To me, I'm not saying he can't be that guy, but let me give you an example. Do you guys remember the dragon wheel, the Y dragon wheel against the Dallas Cowboys, where they snapped it. Jordan rolled left, and what he did was he ran a drag route. He being Luke Musgrave runs a drag route and then wheels it off and gets completely lost in the secondary. He was running butt naked through the trailer park. He was wide open. That's scheming him open, right? He didn't do anything special. He run a drag and wheeled it off and turned around. There was nobody in the area code, right? As were someone like a Travis Kelce, or even, in some cases, a Sam Laporta. I'll give you another one. Is our boy, not our boy, we actually hate him, George Kittle out in San Francisco. That dude knows how to find space. He just understands. You can be a great route runner and get open, especially in man coverage. But then also, if you're savvy like a George Kittle and a Travis Kelce, where you understand how defenses are trying to play the tight end position, you know where the soft spot's going to be in the defense. You know where every player on the field is around you on your side of the ball, meaning you know where every aspect of the passing concept is, knowing that the number one on your side, the number one receiver on your side, because you're the two, because you're in the slot, knowing he's going to run a 12-yard dig route behind you. Okay, if he's going to run a 12-yard dig, I'm probably going to have a little more space to work the outside shoulder. So why don't I really sell the inside before I break on my out route? Little savvy stuff like that. So some of it is fluidity and being able to create separation. And I think other people like Kittle and Kelce, it's more of just understanding defenses and what you're trying to accomplish to find space. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, and then you got people like Luke Musgrave that just, I'm wide open. Throw me the ball. And we're going, just stay on your feet, Luke. Just stay on your feet.
Stay on his feet. Woo!
I love that. That locker room video is the best, man.
To add on that, like you guys like your Kelce's, your Kittles, your Mark Andrews, they know where to sit in a defense.
Yes.
They're so smart.
Mark Andrews is another one, yeah.
Where they understand, like, nobody's covering me. Nobody's going to cover me for the next 2 seconds. I can just stop what I'm doing, maybe stop the route, sell it off a little short, or make a different angle. And like, that's where you really have that rapport with the quarterback where, yeah, it'd be great.
Or like you coming out in a Trey Wright set. And by Trey Wright, meaning there's three targets on the right side, one of which on the inside is the tight end. That's the difference between Trips and Trey. So if you're the Trey tight end and you're playing a team that likes to run, say, a lot of Tampa 2, and you know the number 2 receiver, the slot receiver on your side of the field is going to run a skinny post, you know as soon as he gets skinny, that Mike has got to acknowledge it and go deep center field with his call on the Tampa 2 defense. That's going to leave more space on the interior. So maybe you're supposed to run a curl, right? You're supposed to run an 8-yard curl, but knowing that number 2 is going to carry the Mike out on Tampa 2, I'm going to bend this in a little bit. I'm going to run a curl, but when I run the curl, I'm going to take 2 or 3 shuffles to the right and give my quarterback a little more space to make that throw in the void. That type of stuff, I think, comes into play a lot. I really do. Jacob, you got anything else, bub?
No, I'm just
you're asking me these X's and O's question in an hour 15. We're going to go 3 hours. I love this stuff.
Tomorrow I think tomorrow is the official start of our season. I mean, this new year, we get all the guys going together, and I'm excited. Hopefully, we got some. Well, we probably won't have any clips, will we? Unless Tim goes full PI mode.
He may be in
on
there.
The crow's nest starts taking some,
Yeah, they try to keep him out, and Tim will be like,
"How about these hands?"
Oh my goodness! All right, I know Matt LaFleur's got a message for the players too.
Yeah, our guys better wake up with their piss hot, like I said before. So
there you go. Final comment of the night. We're going to let Paul Robertson bring it home. He says, Eric Sutherland passes out in the bathroom remodeling section at Home Depot. So,
I got the toilets were real. He was trying to let one go.
I immediately think of Jackass. You remember the episode where they
yes. Oh no.
Oh man, that was peak early 2000s TV right there, no doubt about it. I do remember one time I did fall asleep. I think it was a Belk's department store. They had the bedding set up, those mock beds where you can kind of sit on them. Me and Mandy had been out to dinner. I had a couple of daddy sodas. She was shopping around, and next thing I know, she's walking over, kicking me in the foot, going, "Clayton, wake up! I'm asleep on one of those beds." I remember that. So, yeah, that's what happens when you're slightly obese, out of shape, and tired after a big dinner. So, all right, we're out of here. Appreciate everybody hanging out with us. This is a lot of fun. We will be back tomorrow evening for PTA Live, and guess what we're going to be doing? And giving you a little mini camp update. It's going to be awesome. We'll work in Kalen King Chalk Talk. And then as the team breaks during the next little break from OTAs, then we'll jump right into the 2023 recap. We'll start with week 1, watch about a 15-minute highlight reel together, pause it, rewind like a bunch of football nerds we are, and kind of relive last year to get a quick refresher going in to this new football season. That'd be a good way to kind of bridge that gap. So once we run out of those highlights, we'll go back to the history segments as the season gets ready to kick off. I think we're going to be picking up with the 1950s decade there. So I've got my notes written down there. We'll get back into history. We got a lot of content to cover. It's going to be a lot of fun, man. Not going to be any Mount Rushmores or just trying to fill in
favorite ice cream topping.
Yeah. What's your favorite ice cream topping? Oh boy. All right. I do like peanut butter and jelly though. You big peanut butter and jelly fan, Jacob?
And you don't bring peanut butter to a jelly fight.
I heard somebody say that once.
You never bring peanut butter to a jelly fight.
All right. Appreciate y'all. For those of you listening on the pod, thank you for making us a part of your day. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world. And go Pack Go.
The power sweep. Actually, it's the lead play in our offense. We ask our YN or a tight end to open up somewhere between 6 feet and 9 feet. Get an isolation with the linebacker. Tell the tackle to take the defensive end if he's over him. If he's not, to drive down on the first man to his inside. If the YN has the linebacker taken out, he cuts inside. If the YN has the linebacker in, he comes all the way around. If you look at this play, what we're trying to get is a seal here and a seal here, and try to run this play in the alley.